The house on Hollow Hill. In the quaint town of Elderview, there stood a decrepit mansion on the outskirts, known as the Hollow Hill House. The townsfolk avoided the place, whispering about the strange occurrences that plagued it for decades. Murmurs of laughter in empty rooms, flickering lights, and unexplainable shadows that seemed to dance in the windows. Driven by a mix of fear and fascination, a group of friends, Anna, Jake, Lily, and Ryan, decided to explore the abandoned house one Halloween night. Armed with flashlights, they approached the creaking front door, which swung open at their touch, as if inviting them inside. The interior was just as the legends described: dust-covered furniture, tattered drapes, and an oppressive silence that enveloped them. They fanned out, each exploring a different part of the expansive house. As Anna climbed the staircase, she felt a shiver run down her spine. The air grew colder, and a distinct sound of soft giggles echoed from the upper floor. Meanwhile, Jake stumbled into a room filled with old photographs of the family that once lived there. All the faces seemed to be gazing right at him, their eyes reflecting sadness. In the corner of the room, a doll sat propped against the wall, its porcelain features cracked but eerily intact. He felt an inexplicable urge to bring it along, so he tucked it under his arm and continued exploring. Lily and Ryan ventured into the basement, where they found remnants of a forgotten era: rusted tools, old furniture, and a palette of musty smells. However, the atmosphere thickened, and they could feel they were being watched. Realizing they hadn't heard from their friends in a while, they decided to regroup. When they all met back in the foyer, an uneasy tension filled the room. The giggles had intensified, echoing through the halls. "Did you hear that?" Anna asked, her voice trembling. Just as a loud crash resonated from upstairs, the group jumped. Their flashlights flickered, plunging them into darkness for a fleeting moment. "Let's go check it out," Jake suggested, clutching the doll tightly. As they ascended the stairs, the laughter grew louder, blending with the sound of footsteps echoing down the hall. As they approached the source, the door to a small nursery swung open by itself. Inside, the walls were adorned with old murals of fairies and woodland creatures. In the center of the room sat a rocking chair, moving gently back and forth as if someone had just been seated there. The room radiated an unsettling warmth, and in the chair, they saw a faint silhouette of a little girl, her giggles turning ominous. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing their flashlights. Panic surged as they scrambled to find the door, but it slammed shut. The shadows grew thicker, closing in around them. The girl's silhouette started to take form, her face filled with sorrow rather than laughter. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered, her voice hauntingly melodic. "They'll never let you leave." The friends gripped each other tightly, their fear escalating to a fever pitch. In a moment of instinct, Jake hurled the doll towards the apparition. It struck the floor, shattering into pieces, and with that, the house shook violently. The door flung open, and they bolted for their lives, racing down the stairs and out into the cool night air. As they looked back at the house, a soft, eerie laughter echoed behind them, slowly fading into the night. They had escaped, but they knew the Hollow Hill house would forever remain etched in their memories, a chilling reminder of the spirits that lingered within its walls. #, the haunting of Blackwood Manor. Nestled deep within the fog-laden woods of Blackwood, an ancient mansion stood, shrouded in mystery and decay. Known as Blackwood Manor, it had been abandoned for decades, its crumbling walls echoing the whispered tales of its former inhabitants. Locals recounted stories of dread and despair, of unexplained phenomena that seemed to plague the grand estate. The last family that lived there vanished without a trace, leaving the manor to decay in eerie silence. Despite the warnings, a pair of ambitious paranormal investigators, Kevin and Sarah, were drawn to the manor like moths to a flame. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and an insatiable curiosity, they planned to spend a night documenting whatever supernatural activity they could find. As they approached the mansion, the oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily upon them. The gate creaked ominously as it swung open, revealing a gravel path flanked by overgrown hedges. The moon cast a pale light upon the structure, illuminating the shattered windows and ivy-covered walls. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of mildew. Cautiously, they made their way through the entrance hall, their flashlights flickering as if reluctant to illuminate the darkness. Old portraits hung crookedly on the walls, depicting stern-faced ancestors who seemed to watch their every move. "Let's set up in the living room," Kevin suggested, his voice echoing in the stillness. They fashioned a makeshift base amidst the decaying furniture, laying out their equipment and preparing for the investigation. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the creaks and groans of the old house settling into the night. As midnight approached, a chill swept through the room, sending shivers down Sarah's spine. She glanced at Kevin, who was engrossed in reviewing the footage from the previous hour. Suddenly, the sound of soft piano music floated through the air, echoing from the direction of the grand parlor. Sarah's heart raced. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kevin nodded, eyes wide with excitement and fear. "Let's go check it out." They crept down the dimly lit hall, the music growing louder with each step. As they reached the parlor door, the music stopped abruptly, plunging them back into silence. Hesitantly, they pushed the door open. The room was vast, with a grand piano sitting in the corner, its keys untouched yet polished as if it had been played moments before. A chill wind rustled the curtains, casting long shadows across the floor. In the center of the room, a shimmering figure began to take form, a translucent woman dressed in a tattered white gown, her long hair cascading like a waterfall down her back. Sarah stifled a scream, her instincts urging her to flee, but she was rooted to the spot. The ghostly figure looked at them with eyes filled with sorrow and longing. "Help me," she whispered, her voice echoing like a distant wind. Kevin, stunned yet fascinated, took a step closer. "What happened to you? Why are you here?" he asked, feeling the weight of her gaze. The apparition pointed toward the grand fireplace, where the faded outline of a family portrait had been scrawled into the soot. "They took my children," she lamented, her voice barely audible over the crackling silence. "The shadows of this house consumed them." Determined to uncover the truth, Kevin and Sarah delved deeper into the mystery of